When Goblin, the lonely and great god, ended in early 2017, it left an emptiness that no drama since has fully replaced. Viewers around the world wept, replayed, and whispered, what if it were real? Because somehow, what unfolded between Gong Yoo and Kim Go-eun didn't feel like fiction. It felt like watching two souls rediscover each other after centuries of separation, and maybe that's because the line between their acting and their emotions blurred so naturally that even time couldn't separate them in our minds. Years have passed, yet a single image of them, standing in falling snow, her scarf brushing his coat, his eyes heavy with devotion, still carries a pulse. Their story wasn't loud or desperate, it was quiet, sacred, and devastatingly human. Goblin didn't just give audiences a romance, it gave them an ache that still lingers in every snowfall. From the very first moment Kim Shin saw Eun-tak, Gong Yoo's eyes told an entire lifetime of yearning. There was restraint in every smile, hesitation in every step. He didn't love her with youthful excitement but with the exhaustion of someone who had waited centuries to feel warmth again. Kim Go-eun met that energy with a freshness that disarmed him completely. Her Eun-tak wasn't naive. She was honest. She loved without calculation, and that purity made every scene feel uncomfortably real, as though the cameras had caught something private. What made their connection extraordinary was the contrast. He, the immortal weighed down by eternity, she, the mortal who burned brightly for a short while. The chemistry was written in contrasts, light against shadow, warmth against cold, laughter against loss. When she smiled at him, he softened. When she cried, the whole world seemed to freeze. Every tiny detail in their performance carried emotional precision. When he handed her that red scarf, the gesture wasn't scripted affection, it was protection, devotion, and apology woven into a single thread. When she blew out the candle and summoned him unknowingly, the way Gong Yoo looked at her wasn't the way an actor looks at a co-star. It was the way someone looks at the one thing that makes existence bearable. Their love scenes never needed physicality to be intimate. A glance, a pause, a trembling breath was enough. In an industry that often thrives on visual romance, Goblin redefined intimacy through silence. When they stood inches apart in the snow, the tension wasn't romantic fantasy, it was recognition, as if both characters suddenly realized they had met in 1,000 lifetimes before. And that recognition echoed through the screen, making audiences feel complicit in their destiny. Behind the scenes, their dynamic was just as delicate. Gong Yoo, already a seasoned actor, treated Kim Go-eun with gentle mentorship and respect, while Kim Go-eun, despite her youth, matched him with emotional intelligence beyond her years. Their mutual trust became the invisible foundation of the story's authenticity. You could see it in the way he allowed vulnerability on screen and in the way she met it without hesitation. Their acting synergy wasn't rehearsed, it was instinctive. Each seemed to anticipate the other's rhythm, as though they had rehearsed this love long before the cameras rolled. Even their laughter between takes felt in character, shy, sincere, fleeting. During emotional scenes, Gong Yoo often said later that he had to reset himself after filming because the emotions lingered too long. Kim Go-eun confessed that saying goodbye to Eun-tak felt like saying goodbye to a part of herself. That admission alone revealed the depth of their artistic entanglement. Goblin may have been fantasy, but for them, it demanded real heartbreak. And maybe that's why, even today, fans speak of their chemistry as if it were a living thing. In interviews, whenever their names are mentioned together, both smile in that quiet, reminiscent way, as if recalling a memory that still glows faintly. They never exaggerate, never tease. They treat what they shared on screen as something sacred. That restraint only fuels the mystery, giving fans the sense that some stories never truly stay inside the script. What Goblin achieved between them was rare. It made immortality believable because the emotions behind it were painfully mortal. The way Kim Shin begged the gods to spare her, the way Eun-tak faced death with a trembling smile, those weren't the makings of fantasy, but of truth. When she told him, "I'll come back. We'll meet again," it wasn't a line, it was a prayer that every viewer whispered with her. And when she finally did, in the drama's closing scene, the reunion felt less like fiction and more like collective wish fulfillment. Years later, that ending still sparks debate. Did she remember everything? Would she live long enough to grow old beside him this time? Did eternity finally show mercy? But perhaps those questions miss the point. Goblin was never about a perfect ending, it was about love's persistence. It was about how even when time erases faces, the heart remembers warmth. Gong Yoo and Kim Go-eun embodied that truth so fully that audiences continue to feel it each time the OST plays. There's also the undeniable alchemy between the actors themselves. When they reunited publicly for awards or interviews, that old rhythm returned instantly, the teasing, the subtle eye contact, the small gestures of comfort. It's not romantic gossip that keeps fans invested, it's the tenderness that feels impossible to fake. When she laughs, he listens. When he speaks, she looks at him like he's still the Goblin. It's as though the drama left an imprint neither could quite erase. In Korean storytelling, snow often symbolizes purity and remembrance. And fittingly, snow follows them both in the show, in fan art, even in the public's imagination. Every new winter reignites the conversation, every flake a reminder of their fated first meeting. The snow, the tears, and the forever they promised still linger in the cultural atmosphere. Theirs was not just a love story, it became a metaphor for connection itself, fleeting yet eternal, ordinary yet divine. If we strip away the fantasy, what remains is profoundly human. Kim Shin's immortal loneliness was simply the pain of anyone who has ever loved too deeply. Eun-tak's bravery was every mortal heart's acceptance of impermanence. And when those two truths collided, the result was art, the kind that doesn't fade but evolves. Viewers aged with them, carried them through heartbreaks and new beginnings, and even now, in an age of newer dramas, Goblin remains the touchstone for genuine chemistry. The enduring power of Gong Yoo and Kim Go-eun's on-screen love lies in how it transcended performance. It wasn't about pretending to love, it was about remembering love. Their gazes carried entire histories, their silences spoke louder than dialogue. The snow, the scarf, the candle, each symbol became part of viewers' emotional vocabulary. We didn't just watch them fall in love, we felt as though we participated in it, as if their story somehow belonged to us too. Perhaps that's why time refuses to dim its glow. Every rewatch feels like revisiting an old wound that somehow still feels sweet. Even knowing how it ends, we wait for the same smile, the same promise. Because deep down, Goblin didn't teach us about immortality. It taught us about love that refuses to disappear, love that can survive memory, distance, and even death. Gong Yoo once said that the drama changed his understanding of love. It's not about time. It's about recognition. And Kim Go-eun replied in another interview, "Love is what makes eternity worth it." Between those two quotes lies the essence of their connection, a dialogue that never really ended. So when the first snow falls each year and fans across the world whisper, "Will you be my first and last?" the answer is already written in the glow of that scene. Somewhere, in that eternal white silence, Kim Shin still waits, and Eun-tak still finds her way back. Their story remains suspended in that endless winter, not frozen, but eternal, quietly reminding us that some love stories don't need sequels because they never truly conclude. Years later, Goblin still breathes because Gong Yoo and Kim Go-eun gave it a heartbeat. They made forever believable. They made waiting beautiful. And long after the final episode faded to black, the snow kept falling, soft, persistent, endless, carrying their promise through time. Love may fade, but recognition never does. Even now, there's a strange hush that follows whenever Goblin is mentioned, a silence that feels like reverence. Fans don't just remember Kim Shin and Ji Eun-tak, they mourn them. Because somewhere in the folds of that story lies a truth too beautiful to let go of. That love, even if cut short, never truly ends. Sometimes it feels as though Gong Yoo and Kim Go-eun didn't just play characters, they awakened something in each other that the camera simply captured by accident. Watch closely, and you'll notice how her eyes always soften before he speaks, how his voice always lowers when she's near. That's not acting. That's a shared heartbeat, echoing through fiction. When the final snow fell and she ran into his arms once more, the world felt both complete and endlessly open. Fans still replay that scene not because of nostalgia, but because it feels like coming home to a feeling you can't name. And maybe that's the secret. Some stories don't end when the credits roll. They become part of you, quiet, constant, and eternal. Gong Yoo and Kim Go-eun didn't just create a love story. They built a memory. And as long as the first snow falls, that memory will always return, soft, shimmering, and infinite, just like the promise they made, we'll meet again.